Okay, great. So first of all, I'd like to give you advice about STAGIL. We're an Atlassian Platinum partner located in Germany or the United States, Spain and Italy. We have teams in 5 different countries. We are 6 years on the Atlassian market, doing 100% Atlassian consulting and all the tools and stuff that belongs to Atlassian. And even though we are also an Atlassian app vendor and have 17 different apps on the marketplace, so I'd like you to check this one out. So people are coming in. So yeah, perfect. That's great. And also, uh, besides the Corona crisis, we are still happy to see that our team is still growing. So we are reaching the 50 employees mark soon, and we are making like 1,000 plus customers happy each day. Great. Today's topic, it's about performance optimization. We'd like to learn about how to scale our Jira, and yeah, next to being hosting partner for many of our customers, we also provide the service of stabilize, scale, monitor, and work on backup strategies for you guys, so that you can scope with your growing teams and growing requirements. And as we all know that Jira that we all love and use, it's kind of like, yeah, sometimes frustrating and hard in terms of performance. So, and that's what we like to tackle today. And so these services we are also providing. And yeah, I want to dig into the webinar content for today's webinar. So thanks for joining and hope you have a great fun. Of course, feel free to use the chat so we can give you response to your questions. If you have questions, feel free to ask anytime you want to, and we try to elaborate on that. So yeah, learn how to boost your Jira performance at scale. So there's, I guess, 3 topics on this. We like to boost our performance, and we like to really know how to scale our Jira. And the webinar goals today are, how to choose the right deployment method. So I will give you advice about possible deployment methods with Jira. Configuration guidelines to keep your instances clean. That applies to the system resources your Jira is running on, but also your Jira configuration, where we can improve performance a lot. Load balancing and traffic control, I'd say that's more like a topic for the Jira data center topic. So we're looking into this. Integration of development of a monitoring solution. Yes, we have a look into this. And finally, the backup strategy of your systems. I'm your host, Christopher Jaksch. I'm thankful that you're joining this meeting. So welcome. So first of all, yeah, why scale? Okay, so I guess every one of us knows that Jira is most likely growing from time to time. I mean, like, you know, all the stories that Jira has been installed under the table, and it was like, okay, we need to support our team because the processes in the company were like really slow, and we needed a really fancy or cool tool to tackle down our workflows and to alert each other on the tasks to do, right? So the things to do. And over the time, such under the desk installations, they grow rapidly. It spreads like wildfire. More teams want to join on the Jira, and suddenly it becomes a company-wide system, right? With enabling many teams, and all these teams, of course, they have requirements. They need each individual stuff like apps or workflows or custom fields. So yeah, it means like Jira can grow heavily, and can mean that Jira will grow over your head. And just to have some idea of the numbers, like yeah, one customer with more than 5 million issues in a single instance of Jira, or the average number in large customers in the instances is like 1,400,000, right? And even though with the growing teams, also, yeah, the requirement or the requests for new projects, they come. So also the projects in Jira, they grow. And yeah, I guess the good point of this one is the data is always growing. Data like issues or attachments or comments on the issues, and even the projects, also the users. But we're never cleaning up like our Jira instance, right? So we never think of archiving our issues, or maybe you do already. But yeah, the housekeeping of our Jira, or keeping the house clean in Jira, that's yeah, that's something we easily forget, like cleaning your room, right? That's yeah. So why should we scale? So the first point is growing data, teams, and users, right? From a small instance to a large instance, it's just a glimpse of an eye. And suddenly also the Jira administrators, they are having much overhead, like maintaining the Jira instance, keeping everything at flow, solving all the workflow requests, solving user problems, and of course, with increasing users and increasing functionality and increasing multiple apps, user getting more and more frustrated because the loading times they slow down in Jira, and the more concurrent user Jira has, right? The slower the page requests will get. So this will lead to user frustration. And another point is why we need to scale our Jira is the increased demand for integrations, because Jira doesn't come alone. Think about Jira Core versus Jira Software. So you're getting like agile boards and stuff. You're having like new processes for your agile development. Jira Service Desk as well would be an integration, including all apps, but also other integrations like e.g. Confluence or Bitbucket, Bamboo, and even other systems like GitHub or whatever. So what we're seeing naturally in our IT infrastructure is, and also, yeah, keeping now that we gathered the knowledge about remote work with COVID-19, right? We need to integrate all our systems even deeper and deeper. So yeah, this is also a good point why we need to scale. And all of a sudden, Jira is that process and workflow tool, your working tool, and suddenly you know, okay, if Jira fails, that's business critical. I mean, like, think about like you having like 10 developers and Jira is down for 2 or 3 hours. I mean, that's bad, but I guess that's not the end of the world. But think about having teams all around the world, or working with external partners together on your Jira system, on your Jira, right? And you have an outage, and it's like suddenly like 1,000 developers or the 1,000 people from different departments like HR, software development, etc. They aren't able to work anymore. They don't know what's their issues, right? They can't work on the sprints. So all of a sudden, Jira gets business critical. And in the moment we say like business is failing, or we have an outage or performance issue, then that's really hard, because we're not just losing productivity, but we're also losing money, I'd say, right? So these are the points why we scale, why we need to scale. And I will give you an overview. Yeah, how can we scale, or how can we tackle down our Jira instance? First of all, I'd like to talk about deployment options we have. What you're not seeing is Jira Cloud. Jira Cloud isn't the scope of today's webinar, so everyone who was hoping to gather information about Jira Cloud and performance, I'm sorry about that. We are focusing totally on the server or the on-premise solution. And the first of all, I guess everyone knows, is the single instance of Jira, which comes with your network. It comes with an application server where your Jira is running on, and the database below, right? We have a file system on the application server, and yeah, that's it. Pretty easy stuff. And I guess most of the people are still running Jira in server. Connecting different Atlassian tools together, we talk about federation. When is a federation required? Federation would be required if you have like different teams, like talk about development and HR, and they have different processes, and they all have different requirements. So maybe with Jira software and Confluence together with Bitbucket would be helpful for your development teams, right? Talking about HR team, maybe Jira Core would be enough. So this enables you to have like small licenses for each of the Atlassian systems overall, and you can yeah, be very dynamic on how to upgrade your Jira systems, and having apps for your different Jira in your federation, right? And also you could run Crowd as a centralized Active Directory for all your Jira or Confluence system or Atlassian tools, whatever you're using in the federation. And also you could have like a connection to your Jira software on the external side, right? And yeah, the advantage of a Jira federation would be that you could really use like unified activity streams, or also unified remote linking to each other's systems. So everyone is working like on their system, but you know that something is going on. And there's great tools on the marketplace as well, like Watchtower or Backbone, issue synchronizer, which help you to even like get more information inside of Jira and set up the synchronization. Yeah, but the thing is, I guess the pain point is you have to have system administration of all these applications, of all these servers, right? So you need to tackle down all these updates from the servers, all the updates from the application as well, and you need to keep these servers all in the monitoring perspective, so outage won't be too hard on one of the systems, right? And last but not least, we have the data center solution, which is not the youngest solution, but it's the youngest solution of these free deployment options. And data center, it mustn't be clustered. It can be non-clustered. So basically, it looks the same as a single instance, but it brings the features from data center. I would tackle down these features or these advantages over a normal single instance later on when talking about a data center in detail. Having enterprise scale, or talking about enterprise Jira, I mean, like I've seen Jira systems, they are working with 10,000 user license and have concurrent users like 2,000 to 5,000 users, and they're working on a single instance. And what I'm always seeing is, okay, these teams are struggling one at a time. Like everyone is starting the sprint and working with the backlog and portfolio and all these apps, right? Because they all start to sprint at the same time, and then it's the traffic is very heavy on the single instance. So you should think about having a clustered data center, a clustered solution of Jira, where the load balancer can tell, okay, we have like many different nodes, like 2, 3, or 4 nodes of Jira, which contains all the same data as active clusters, right? And the load balancer decides where the users go to which node. And below we have a shared database and a shared file system. All of these nodes can use. Yeah. So these are the 3 deployment options, or even 4 deployment options. And starting with a single instance, what are the options, or what, can we achieve to scale our Jira? So first of all, yeah, how to scale. Maybe you have already seen from Atlassian the Jira sizing guide. So first of all, what I would do is really get the license guide, sizing guide going and check all the details. And it's pretty simple actually. So Atlassian, based on the best practices, has set up a table, and the sizing legend, it says like, okay, we have like 4 different scales: small scale to enterprise scale. And they have set up some numbers. Like small scale would have been like 100 users, with concurrent active users would be 25, and like 15,000 issues, for example. And with this table, you can pretty easily go into your Jira, into the system information. So this is just that you can just check where you find the information, and you get like database statistics. And as you can see, okay, comments like 700. So this is a very small instance of ours. It's our Summit instance. And yeah, so we would definitely say that this is a small scaled system, right? And you cannot, so this is not very strict at all. So this table, think about like you're having like 2 or 3 projects because you're only using like a service desk in Jira, but you're already having like 200,000 issues, and each issue and each month you're getting like 4,000 more issues because of your service desk. So you would definitely say like projects, it would be free, but yeah, okay, we should think about if we are large scale, because of the amount of issues that you're already having, the amount of concurrent users that are using your Jira frequently, or the issues per month that are coming in, right? And also like using custom fields. I mean, like you could have like 100 users, but you're using like 600 custom fields already. So you also have to think of, okay, is the current scaling, would be a small scale be correct, or should we enlarge our scaling, right? And based on yeah, based on the numbers you're getting here, yeah, you can really try to tackle down your system requirements. Are your system requirements set correctly, or do we need to increase some kind of numbers? And having in mind that every Jira environment is set up very differently. So I guess there's like no 2 or 3 instances which are, yeah, kind of like the same, right? It's of course really hard to tell what's the best solution for you guys, but also keep in mind this is yeah, a validation of your system settings. So this is just where you can focus on, right? And having like a mid-scale system, you think of having like yeah, system memory which would be greater than 8 gigabytes for your operating system and your application, and the JVM, the Java Virtual Machine heap size, which should be larger than 2 gigabytes, depending, of course, not only on these numbers, but also on the apps you're using, for example. So remember, as I said before, okay, like Jira Core alone, it would be very small, but using Jira Software and Jira Service Desk and all the other apps, you could really think of even increasing the Java virtual machine heap size even more, right? So focus on these numbers. Also total disk space for your installation directory, for your home directory, where you have like attachments, like 50 to 100 gigabytes, right? Where you have like your index inside and the plugins cache. Keep an eye on that, and really you could always focus on these are the minimum requirements, right? And always think about, okay, scaling that even further so you won't have problems all the time. And yeah, so hardware demand, plan ahead. So as you know, Jira is a Java, uses Java. So always think about using latest Java products to run your Atlassian products smoothly. And with each Java update, of course, also performance can be improved, right? Also with the disk space, think about using using data storage which has which is very fast, like SSD, for example. So index files or attachments will just can be found much quicker, and the latency also, which is something you need to keep an eye on. And also the memory, where you can set up your Jira instance. Keep an eye on the memory, checking on the system info already. So this would be the rudimental monitoring. Of course, you can see like that we have applied 8 GB of memory just for the Jira application, and you see it's just, So think about scaling it up or increasing your Java heap memory when it's like down to 10%, 25 to 10%, right? Yeah. Okay. Besides that, we have to think about our application environment as well. So just some hints. Use latest Java runtime environments for optimized performance. Jira comes with support, or Atlassian in general comes with supported database, which is Postgres, Oracle, MySQL, or Microsoft SQL Server. Installing a Jira as an evaluation environment, you can run the H2 SQL database, but running Jira as production environment, please use one of these four databases. And also use the latest database driver to avoid performance impact. This will always give you a little boost on how to improve your Jira instance, right? If you're feeling you're having high loads, you always can update your database connection pooling to provide more simultaneous connections to the database, and you can keep them open. So the database doesn't need to acquire always new connections or need to wait or build up new connections. So this is something you really should tackle down. Operating system, use the one that your administration team is comfortable with. Linux or Windows should be perfectly fine. And always remember that you're using supported web browsers to avoid a bad user experience. Having like the newest Jira version applied to your company, but using like Internet Explorer 6, that won't work, right? I mean, based on the company size, I know the web browser processes are always kind of like hard to tackle down, but think about using really supported web browsers. And for the supported platforms, always check the Atlassian documentation, of course, to see if your system is set up right. Other factors that could decrease performance would be the network capacity. You should always review the network capacity, since the poor network bandwidth can affect your Jira performance. Also, network latency. Reduce the delays between database server and application server by having them close to each other. So like having a Jira application server in Frankfurt, but your database server is standing like in Timbuktu or somewhere else, that won't match well. So just keep them close together. Also the file system, of course, the storage, so that these server structures, these infrastructure can work perfectly fine. And another point would be the antivirus software. If you can't ignore directories like Jira Home, Index Directory, or the plugins cache, the antivirus software could easily decrease performance. And if you cannot ignore these directories, then try to take full antivirus scans outside of the business hours, right? So that your users are not affected too much by antivirus scans at all. Yeah. Keep always an eye on these information. Also, when you're planning like to update Jira, because with updating Jira, Jira itself, Atlassian is always trying to increase performance with each Jira major upgrade, right? And I guess they are really doing a really good job, but always check the supported platforms as well for each Jira version you want to go to, right? Okay, let's go to the Jira configuration. So I mean, like next to the system, inside of the system, we can of course do a lot of things wrong. And as you know, like starting with Jira, everyone is so hyped that we're trying to use all the different apps on the marketplace, which is, I guess, like for Jira alone, it's 2,000 different apps. Quote me on that if I'm wrong. But yeah, apps or in general, the high possibility to configure everything in Jira, it leads to clutter, right? And as we know, most of the time we're trying out everything, but we leave like, yeah, everything is kept as it is. And at some point, it's so business critical that we need to really do some housekeeping. So for example, working with custom fields, like too many custom fields affect performance due to index. What does that mean? Yeah, every field or every information we put inside of Jira issues, it's indexed. So we can use advantage of quick searches, right? Because everything we would need to search in a database, it would give us slow performance. So that's why Jira is using a Lucene index, and every information that we put inside a Jira issue is indexed, right? And one of these custom fields, which is really harming performance overall, it's free text custom fields, or in general text custom fields. And I would definitely want you to improve these kind of fields, like thinking about, okay, do we need the amount of free text custom fields, or can we reduce free text custom fields? Other than that, try to create generic custom fields, right? So it doesn't, it's not really a good idea to have like a very special wording for HR for a custom field when you could reuse these custom fields for other teams as well. So try to give them generic names so that you can reuse custom fields for different teams or different purposes, right? And also try to restrict the custom field context for projects or issue types, so that that not every custom field has a global context, right? Because having global context means that it applies to every issue in the Jira index. And think about what I've seen at one customer side is having like a free text custom field where they put inside like a default value, which was a table with, I don't know, like 2,000 or 3,000 signs and numbers, right? And this field was applied to every issue that was created in Jira. So you run the JQL query and you find out that this custom field was like, yeah, running on 300,000 issues. And yeah, so this is performance heavy for the index, and it will definitely decrease the searching time in Jira as well. Workflows, watch out for too many transitions and post functions. Yeah, I mean, like growing teams, or in terms of scaling, we want to reuse, we want to keep our workflows clean and maintainable. So your Jira administrators don't want to create like 500 different workflows for each project, but actually they want to work with synergies, right? So agile teams, they should work with the same workflows, so we can like have cross projects as well. I guess that's something we need also for a scaled agile framework. And try to create reusable and understandable workflows for your teams, because no one is, it doesn't help anyone if you have like majestic workflows that are working perfectly fine, but no one understands the reason behind status or transitions, right? In terms of scaling, also think about permissions, right? Use shared permission schemes in conjunction with project roles. Each project comes with the project roles you defined globally, you set up globally in Jira. And that will help you to take care of security gaps due to bad permission scheme design, so that you're not having like the Jira users default group having like have to have a look inside of each Jira project. And this will also help you in later terms of the search we're just coming to, and tackling down the project roles and basically your permissions. So defining groups for your project roles inside a project. It will also be helpful for security audits, for example. And even though if a user has permission related problems, you can easily troubleshoot that kind of stuff, right? In between of that all, I mean, like every configuration in Jira must be considered. So think scalability, work closely with the business stakeholders, understand the business context of the requirements, and explore suitable Jira configurations. I mean, like we all know there's different ways to get to the same kind of like result, but think about the easiest way or the most perfect way for you and your team to maintain these solutions as well, right? So think scalability, be mindful of Jira configuration decisions that impact scalability. Really discuss also the ideas of what's behind the configuration request, and really think about that you're not going with every Jira configuration that is requested by your stakeholders, right? Thinking about queries, permission schemes or issue security schemes can increase search time. Why is it? Think about a person per se that has like view on all issues, and think about the search. He's searching for each issue, right? The search, it takes a long time. So having project roles and project permissions or even issue security schemes that can decrease search time. But for each search you're running, consider that the user who's running the search inside of Jira is always calculating based on the permissions and the issue security that the user has. So the user can only see the issues that he needs to see, right? Next topic, custom JQL functions are often not optimized for performance. Custom JQL functions most likely come with different apps like a script runner or advanced JQL queries. It happens from time to time that these JQL queries take quite long to give you the search result, right? So please be mindful and always test custom JQL functions. Also using nested searches like filter in, which has another filter in, which has another filter in. It decomposes into multiple searches, and having like bad JQL functions overall inside of nested searches, that will keep you like searching for forever and ever, and you won't find good results on your Jira. Also think about searching for comments. Comments are indexed separately than issues, and combining both comment search with issue search, Jira needs to get these two search queries together, as these two index together, and this might be also affecting your performance. So what can you do about queries? Actually train your Jira users for better JQL queries. Give them ideas or give them advanced information on how to improve JQL queries. For example, inside of your agile boards, use like project is or project in, so that you're not searching for every project, but you just keep on focusing on these projects inside of your sprints or Kanban boards that you really need to use, right? Also, try to optimize or remove, try to optimize queries from your customers, from your users, or remove custom JQL functions if you're seeing that they are performing poorly. And continuous testing of performance-heavy JQL queries. Keep that in mind. It can help you with each Jira update or with every update of apps, so that you keep track on this one. Also working with Jira boards. Jira board is driven by JQL queries, so having bad JQL queries overall, it leads to poor performance on your Jira boards as well. And just having like a small example, 3 swim lanes, 4 card colors that you are defining via JQL. That means these are 12 different JQL queries, and think about having poor JQL queries overall. Yeah, the board is like heavy loading, taking heavy time to load the board, the issues on the board, right? So advice would be reduce swim lanes and card colors, update your board filter to include the project key as stated before. And you can also think of disabling the days and columns, which is also a functionality in Jira boards, which you shouldn't use all the time. Next topic would be scaling apps. Apps can limit your ability to scale Jira. Like installing each and every app and trying to tackle down different issues, like I'm thinking about Jira Portfolio or Big Picture, for example. Try to focus using one app. I mean, like if you're having really different usage of it, it might be fine, but try to get rid of redundant functionalities by different apps, so that you have a clear focus on what's going on, and your Jira administrators can focus as well on a small size of apps they are really fit into, right? And to reduce risk of later performance issues, you should always evaluate your apps, maybe also on a test environment, not on your production environment. And you should definitely drive user acceptance testing with your stakeholders. So they should definitely test your configurations as well. And since Atlassian since Atlassian has enabled the process of verifying the apps, just try to use the Atlassian verified apps, because Atlassian tackles down the quality of the apps, and they have like really strict processes on the apps. So you can definitely count on that the support of the vendor is given, and yeah, use Atlassian verified apps. And also, if you're not using apps anymore, or you're using like new apps, feel free to analyze the old apps if you really need them, if they are really used, right? And if not, try to deinstall them, so that also the clutter inside your app management is just reduced. And also you can reduce, of course, license cost. Good. So if we have figured out all of these points, but still our Jira is like not scaling well, and having like, yeah, we have like problems or high load, whatever, you should really think about scaling with Jira Data Center. And Atlassian has found out that most kindly that people are switching from server to data center at the point of 500 to 1,000 user tier. And when it comes to service desk, I mean, it's with a 50 agent license that they really start using Jira Data Center. And we're getting some key benefits from Jira Data Center, like high availability. Think about having an active clustering, and this will ensure users to have uninterrupted access to critical applications. Because if one node goes down, users will be redirected to the next node, or based on the load balancer to another node, so they can still continue working, right? Performance at scale. You can add, infinite amount of nodes to your data center cluster, and each node, it increases the concurrent user capacity and improves the response time as user activities grow. So that means the Jira Data Center license costs, they don't look at how much nodes you're using, but they are just about what size of user license you are just buying, right? Also, the instant scalability, we can easily add new nodes without having a downtime or additional fees, in licensing fees, as I said. And adding a new node, it will just copy indexes, apps, and everything required for the local node disk will be copied directly to the new node as well, right? So this means like the zero downtime. That's a huge difference inside a clustered environment with a non-clustered environment, or the single server instance of Jira, or even the federation instance of Jira, right? Also, deployment flexibility. You can run it on your like your own server, or like technologies like VMware, bare metal, or you can run it on an infrastructure as a service like AWS or Azure. And the good thing about AWS or Azure is they also come like with quick start and Azure templates, so you can really easily get your Jira going, right? And of course, thinking about having like a single instance and you're thinking about migrating to Jira Data Center, that's always something we need to consider, but that's always something your Atlassian partner can definitely help you to tackle these information or these steps, right? Jira Data Center, it brings like authentication control with some single sign-on. So with a standalone server, you would always need to buy an app for that. Jira Data Center brings the authentication and control with some SSO support, right? And I guess a good thing is also the disaster recovery, the replication to a different location. So in case of like a emergency inside the data center, so think about like Frankfurt is shut down completely. With disaster recovery, you could definitely get your disaster recovery server easily up and running, so your users won't have too much time of an outage, right? And infrastructure architecture, it comes with a load balancer, it comes with different nodes, shared database and shared file system. And thinking about traffic control or load balancing as well, for example, having like multiple REST API calls from one user at a time, and this is giving some heavy load on our instance. You can always think about like a different scenario with the load balancing, so that one node will be just for REST API calls from your users, right? And the other nodes, which is like just a web GUI for your normal users. And also think of having like, for example, a fourth node where only the Jira administrators have access to, right? So this is maybe also not available via the load balancer, but with another IP address, for example. So the Jira administrators could just run a full index on their administration node, and after completing the full index, this index will always be synced to the other nodes as well. So this is picture perfect in terms of how you can control your traffic inside a Jira Data Center, and these kind of options, you won't have with a single instance. And also, what I want to show is like the average response time of Jira Data Center versus Jira Server. Based on the concurrent users, of course, like having a single server and based on concurrent users, we see that the average response time, it's very high for Jira Server. And increasing the nodes of Jira Data Center, it will improve the average response time. So it will decrease the average response time. So users have like, slower response time to load all the pages and stuff, right? So, and also the main difference between a Jira Data Center, non-clustered or clustered versus Jira Server would be using SAML SSO, the high availability with clustering, which of course the clustering is based on the cluster nodes. You won't have high availability, of course, with a non-clustered Jira Data Center, but Jira Data Center comes as non-clustered or clustered option with a content delivery network. So think about working with your teams in Brazil, for example, or in the United States, but your Jira application is run in Frankfurt, in Germany, for example. The content delivery network helps you to decrease the page loading times on foreign countries. So and it's about 50 to 75%. And in the content delivery network, you're setting up, for example, in the location United States or Brazil. These content delivery networks, they cache all the what's called? Sorry about that. They they cache all the information about JavaScript or CSS, for example. So all the information, static content, right? That you always need for calling Jira issues, for example, or all the Jira masks screens. So yeah, so content delivery network will help you definitely boost your teams around the world, right, to work with Jira. Zero downtime upgrades, which comes with clustering. So you can just shut down one node and start the upgrade procedure while the people are running on different nodes. So you can upgrade each node at a time. And after you have upgraded all nodes, you can just run the upgrade process, and this will just give you your users a new Jira version as well, right? Coming with non-clustered or clustered Jira Data Center, you can archive projects or even issues. In normal single instance, you would definitely run like, like special permission schemes so that people are, so not every customer or every user can see archived issues. With Jira Data Center, we can archive issues so that they are completely so they're completely gone from the index. So that reduces the lines of index, and that will help you to increase search time as well. It also comes with a custom field optimizer that helps you tackle down the thing about the global context, or it just states how much the custom fields are used. Cluster monitoring in a clustered environment, so you can get all the information about your cluster. It comes with rate limiting, so that you can limit the rate of REST API calls from your users. So this will also help you improve security. And as stated before, deployment options, which you can always run inside the AWS or the Azure, Microsoft Azure, right, with templates. Talking about monitoring, why should we monitor, right? We want to optimize our end user productivity with tackling down all the problems that are coming inside of monitoring. It helps us to understand our system, and it helps to tune our performance. It's cost effective, right? Because less outage and a better performance, so better loading times. So yeah, so increases budget overall, but it's cost effectiveness. We don't have many outages anymore. It gives us also an understanding of better security, or gives us also the possibility of better security. So that we can see, okay, there's like maybe for a DDoS attack, for example. And it enables, of course, proactive alerting. So in kind of emergency, we can ping the right people to the right time. And yeah, what would we consider to monitor? First of all, I guess the simplest one is the availability, the heartbeat, or the ping of our application. Is it still there? We want to definitely monitor our infrastructure for the CPU, the memory, the disk space, database, network, LDAP, and certificates, for example, so that we are getting a picture of is our infrastructure healthy, which Jira is running on. Service and process, check if the process is still running. If not, you can always automate that it's restarting after some time. Application performance, we'd like to definitely monitor that, so we can really dig into like how our Java virtual machine is really used. Is the located the memory, is it okay? Is it good enough? And get the full picture and full understanding of our application performance. And the last but not least, of course, monitoring our log files for repeating error messages, or for newly gathering error messages, so we can really focus on what's going on inside of a Jira environment, right? And for large and enterprise scale deployments, we definitely recommend to use like a software as a service solution or an on-premise tool, which is hosted separately, but not in the same, on the same application server or in the same data center that your application is running, right? Because in case of an outage of your application, think about the complete data center is like shut down, then your monitoring, yeah, it won't help you at all. So try to keep that in mind for your performance monitoring. And just to give you a few examples, what tools you could use. I mean, like we at STAGIL, we are using Nagios in Singa for our hosting monitoring. So all our customers are monitored by Nagios and in Singa. Grafana is definitely a good tool to give you a rich graphics of your log files and of your monitoring in a system. Dynatrace, Splunk, whatever, like. And you should really definitely try out Opsgenie, as Opsgenie is definitely a great tool from Atlassian to proactive alerting the right teams at the right time. And also for the end user custom communication, you could check out status page from Atlassian so that end users can always check for what's going on with Jira, for example. So they can have like a standalone page on all your Atlassian services, right? And last but not least, the backup strategy. Why should we back up? Of course, topic is data safety, minimize the loss of productivity. We want to have backups for rollback scenarios in case of our upgrades going wrong. And we want to really enable disaster recovery, which definitely is improved with a Jira Data Center, of course. And if you're asking of what to back up, definitely we need to back up our database. You should definitely back up your Jira installation directory, having like configuration files like server XML inside of it. And also the ZenFSH file for the JVM settings, right? Your Jira home directory, which includes your plugin cache, your index files, and even your attachments, of course. And if you're having other configuration files, you should definitely consider to back up these files as well. And thinking about how to back up, you should definitely define a backup interval based on your data criticality. And there's like 3 KPIs you should really consider when setting up your backup strategy, right? Like the recovery point objective, how up to date you require your Jira instance to be after failure. So if it's very critical data you're working on, then it's, I guess, yeah, you can wait like for 2 days, for example, to regain your system up and running, right? Also the recovery time objective, yeah, how quickly you require your standby system to be available after failure. So think of the failover from one data center to another, this as disaster recovery. So you can get up your system again quick. Or the recovery cost objective, how much you're willing to spend on your disaster recovery solution, right? So if you're not taking care of it at all, maybe you don't care about this, but having like critical data or having many teams working with the Jira system, yeah, you should definitely spend time and spend budget on this one. And of course, okay, it would be to run just a daily Jira XML backup, maybe at night out of business hours for small scale Jira systems. But I'm a big fan of having continuous backup data to remote location storage, so you can really get your Jira backup if it crashed, for example. And definitely coming with disaster recovery or even with backup, of course, your team should definitely train how to back up and disaster recovery at least once a year, for example. So it's really not just a information guideline to in your process book, but really need to train your teams, right? Good. And my final thoughts about this one as well, of course, you should just think about establishing change process overall. So you can plan and communicate and run your Jira and infrastructure updates. You can do this in Jira as well. Avoid changing too many issues at a time. So so if you have like performance problems or if you want to scale your Jira, go one step at a time, but don't just upgrade your Jira and move it to another server instance. And because in the aftermath, you don't want you know will not be able to see, okay, what was the real yeah option that really scaled your Jira well, or that recorded your performance, right? Definitely what's helpful if you're having like complex or even growing systems, try to establish a test environment so you can deploy and monitor each of your changes before rolling it out to the production environment, right? It doesn't help if you install everything or run on a production environment instantly, but it can come with poor performance and with frustrated end users, right? Try to manage and run your regression tests for quality assurance. So every time you plan an update and you run the update, run regression tests on your applications, so you know that the performance hasn't decreased, but maybe better increased. And try to be proactive. Scale Jira ahead. Don't wait until the outages appear, but really try to be proactive and really, just take also the step and think about scaling with Jira Data Center if your Jira single instance isn't doing any good anymore. And of course, last but not least, final thought, ask for help. Use Atlassian documentation, Atlassian support, or even Atlassian partners for scaling your Jira successfully. We are really here to help you and get your Jira going as a success story. And yeah, that's my final thoughts of the webinar, just in time. And so I'd say definitely thank you for your time. And yeah, so if you have questions, just write it in the chat for now. Otherwise, from the content perspective, I'm done for today. And I would say just big thanks for participating in the webinar. Thank you.